The kingdom had been silent for 3 days. No music floated through the palace halls, no laughter echoed in the streets, and even the birds seemed to sing more softly. At the highest tower of the golden palace, an old king stood by his window, his crown resting heavy in his hands. His eyes were filled with worry, because his greatest question had no easy answer. The king had everything: power, riches, and a beautiful kingdom loved by many. But his heart was restless. He had no heir, and time was slipping away. One question echoed through the palace walls and into every home in the kingdom: who will become the queen? Before the story begins, dear listeners, if you enjoy magical and meaningful stories like this one, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and comment on our channel, Lit Star Cartoon. Your love and support help us share more bedtime stories filled with hope, kindness, and inspiration. Now, let us begin our tale. Long ago, in a peaceful land called Lemuria, the people believed their kingdom was blessed. The rivers sparkled like silver threads, the fields grew golden wheat, and the palace stood tall with white stone towers shining under the sun. King Aldrich ruled wisely for many years. He was fair, strong, and deeply loved by his people. But as the years passed, his hair turned white, and his steps grew slow. King Aldrich had no children. The queen he loved with all his heart had passed away long ago, leaving behind memories but no heir to the throne. The people trusted their king, yet they feared the future. Without a queen, the kingdom could fall into chaos. Nobles whispered behind closed doors, and ambitious families dreamed of power. One quiet evening, King Aldrich called for a royal announcement. Messengers rode through the streets, ringing bells and shouting, "Hear ye! Hear ye! All are invited to the palace courtyard at sunrise tomorrow." The next morning, the courtyard was filled with people, rich and poor, young and old. The king stood on the balcony, his voice gentle but strong. "My people," he said, "I have ruled you with love, but I am growing old. I will choose a queen, not by blood or wealth, but by heart. For kindness is the greatest power of all." The crowd gasped. This was unheard of. "I will give every young woman in this kingdom a chance," the king continued. "Over the next 3 days, each will face a test. Not a test of beauty or strength, but a test of compassion. At the end, I will know who deserves the crown." Hope spread like fire through the kingdom. In a small village at the edge of Lemuria lived a young girl named Alara. She was not rich, nor was she famous. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn, and her home was a small wooden cottage she shared with her grandmother. Alara spent her days helping others, carrying water for the elderly, caring for sick children, and feeding stray animals. When Alara heard the king's announcement, she smiled softly but shook her head. "That life is not for someone like me," she whispered to her grandmother. Her grandmother, wise and gentle, took Alara's hands. "Kindness has a way of leading us where we least expect," she said. "Go, my child. Not for the crown, but to stay true to who you are." With a nervous heart, Alara decided to go. On the first day, hundreds of young women arrived at the palace. Some wore silk dresses and jewels, others plain clothes like Alara. They were led into a grand hall where golden doors opened to reveal a long road beyond the palace walls. A royal guard announced, "Today's test begins now." As the women stepped outside, they found the road blocked by fallen carts, crying children, and travelers struggling with heavy loads. Some women walked past without stopping, afraid of wasting time. Others helped quickly but complained loudly, worried about their dresses. Alara stopped at every turn. She lifted fallen carts with the help of others, comforted crying children, and shared her bread with a hungry traveler. She did not look back at the palace once. That evening, when the women returned, the king said nothing. He only watched and listened. The second day brought a new challenge. The women were sent into the city with no guards, no servants, and no money. They were told to return by sunset. Some grew angry and demanded help from strangers. Others tried to use their names or family status to gain favors. A few gave up and sat by the road, blaming the king for being unfair. Alara wandered through the streets and found an old woman struggling to sell flowers. She spent hours helping her, even though it meant she might be late returning. When the old woman offered her a coin, Alara refused. "Your smile is enough," Alara said. She returned to the palace just as the sun dipped below the horizon. By the third day, only a handful of women remained. The final test was held inside the palace itself. Each woman was invited, one by one, into a quiet room where a single candle burned. Inside, the king waited. To each woman, the king told a different story, of hunger, loss, fear, and hope. Some listened politely. Others spoke of what they would do as queen, listing laws and plans. When Alara entered, she bowed respectfully. The king spoke of a poor child who had lost everything. Alara's eyes filled with tears. "I would sit with that child," she said softly. "I would remind them they are not alone. Laws can wait, but a broken heart cannot." The king smiled. That night, the palace lights shone brighter than ever. The people gathered once more in the courtyard. King Aldrich stepped forward, holding the crown. "I have seen strength," he said. "I have seen beauty. But above all, I have seen kindness." He turned toward Alara. "Alara of Lemuria," he announced, "you have shown compassion without seeking reward. You have helped without being asked. You have loved without expecting anything in return. You will become the queen." The crowd fell silent, then erupted in cheers. Alara's knees trembled. Tears streamed down her face. "I will serve with kindness," she promised. Years passed, and Queen Alara ruled beside King Aldrich until his final days. Under her reign, the kingdom flourished, not because of riches, but because people felt seen and cared for. She walked among her people, listened to their stories, and reminded them that even the smallest act of kindness could change a life. Children grew up believing that goodness mattered. Neighbors helped one another. And Lemuria became known far beyond its borders as the kingdom of kind hearts. And so, dear listeners, this is the answer to the question: who will become the queen? Not the richest, not the strongest, but the one whose heart is filled with kindness. May this story remind us all that true power lies in compassion, and that every small act of kindness can make the world a brighter place. Tonight, as you rest, remember, kindness is a crown we can all wear. Glowing star.